Happy 2022 and welcome everyone. My name is Dave Miller, Little League Western Region instructor and umpire-in-chief for California District 31. Welcome to our 5-part training series on the Little League Rulebook. These sessions are designed for all parties, including Little League presidents, board of directors, managers, coaches, scorekeepers, and most importantly, our adult and youth umpires. Feel free to share these sessions in groups or with individuals directly. I'm pleased to have with us Gary Graupmann, who is a Little League Western Region rules trainer and fellow California District 31 staff umpire. Gary will take us through the rulebook in these sessions, and know that if you have any questions on the material, feel free to reach out to your local league UIC or even Gary and I at any time throughout the season. Lastly, but certainly not least, please know that Little League does not happen without our amazing volunteers like you. You're a significant part of the hundreds of thousands of Little League volunteers worldwide, and whether you know it or not, you're making a huge difference in your communities. So on behalf of Little League's Western Region, thank you and enjoy the videos. All right, session 5, everybody's favorite, interference and obstruction. Gary, make some sense of this, would you?
Boy, I tell you what, if it were that easy, we'd all be able to do it. Dave, thanks. And good day to all the Western Region volunteers. Interference and obstruction are kind of where you make your money. It's a tough call. You've got to recognize what in the world did Abner really want when he put this thing together. Offensive interference, act by a member of the team at bat, which causes a problem for the fielder making a play on a batted ball. Umpire's judgment doesn't have to be intentional, nor does it require contact. The flip side is the offensive team messing with the runners such that without the ball, a fielder cannot impede the progress of any runner. Again, umpire's judgment, again, doesn't have to be intentional or require contact. And without the ball, a fielder cannot block a base or cause a runner to change his or her approach to the base. That is something that might help us understand obstruction a little better, that if the runner chose to run directly into a base, and because of the fielder's action, he must slide or do something else while that fielder doesn't have the ball, that will also be an obstruction situation. So let's take a look. Defense, again, the right to the baseline on a batted ball. Offense, right to the baseline on a thrown ball. We want to maintain the balance required in the game. So let's take a look at interference. Lots of places where offensive interference shows up, but basically it's the runner or the batter runner confusing or impeding any fielder attempting to make a play. Remember, we're going to talk about it a couple more times in this presentation now, but a play is the first movement by the fielder, gloving and holding the ball, and then throwing to finish the play. That is the duration of time that that fielder is protected. A coach may also cause interference by physically assisting the advance of a runner or the return of the runner to first base or third base. And then defensive interference is almost always the catcher preventing the batter from hitting a pitch. It's going to be interference if the batter does something to interfere with the catcher's ability to make a play on a runner who is stealing or returning to a base. If the catcher's first throw retires the runner, the interference is disregarded. If the batter interferes with the catcher's throw or play and a rundown ensues, call time immediately and apply the interference penalty. If the runner reaches base safely or advances further on the play, call time as soon as you can and enforce the penalty. Something that we don't necessarily give enough credence to is that the batter remains motionless in the box. Even if it complicates the catcher's play, it is not interference. Some action has got to be made to cause the problem. Remember, it doesn't have to be intentional, and it can be a small amount. If the batter's backswing strikes the catcher or her or his gear, the ball is immediately dead with no interference. If it's on the third strike and it causes the ball to be dropped or not fielded cleanly, the batter is going to be out on strikes and the ball is immediately dead. If, however, if it is before the pitch comes in that the batter strikes the catcher, it's simply an inadvertent situation and reset. If anytime the catcher's return throw to the pitcher or to any of the fielders strikes the batter or his gear, it's going to be incidental and the ball is live. For example, in this situation, and by the way, this batter is about as nonchalant as I've ever seen a kid in a ball game.
Just trying to play a couple more. That one gets away.
Did we see that situation? The catcher hit the batter in the head with his return throw. And the batter kind of shrugs his shoulders. Okay. But the key point is the ball remained live. Here it is again. Doink. Make sure my helmet's on straight. Want to look good. Runner's interference. Anytime that you intentionally interfere with a play, it's going to be interference. Hindering a fielder attempting to make a play on a batted ball, whether it's intentional or not. As we said before, contact is not necessary. Running to block a sight line can be interference. For example, if the runner slows down or intentionally stops, hops over the ball, something like that, which the umpire determines impeded the fielder's ability to make the play, that can be interference. A fielder is protected, as we said, from first motion until the throw is complete. Here is an interesting situation. I'd ask you when you are going to call time on this play. From what we said earlier, you should call time as soon as the interference occurs. It's an immediate dead ball. This one was a tough one because if we look at the score here, 13-13, extra innings, bottom with the winning run there at third base. No matter how far that shortstop ran to get ready to make the play, he is protected as the play goes down. Let's watch it again. He makes the catch, takes a couple steps forward, and the runner runs into him. Time should be called right there. What you don't want to have happen is something like this where a rundown ensues, a player gets injured or something else happens that isn't necessary because the play should be dead already. If the runner is touched by a fair batted ball in fair territory, the runner's out and ball's dead, the batter who hit the ball is awarded first base. Remember, this ruling is such that the runner's view is going to be blocked for him to not be called out. So if it goes through the defender's legs or past that infielder in close proximity, the runner's not going to be out and the ball would remain live. Anytime a base runner is struck by a batted ball while on a base, that is not a sanctuary for the rule. The one exception is on an infield fly situation when the runner is touched by the infield fly while still on the base. If off the base, when touched by the infield fly, both the batter and the runner are going to be out. This is a little different than a situation where a runner is, for example, on second base with the fly ball in the infield and the fielder runs into the runner properly on second base. That is not interference by the runner because the runner cannot be forced to put himself in jeopardy by leaving the base to allow the fielder direct access. So the fielder and the runner kind of got to get together. You want to make sure the runner's not doing anything that would unnecessarily impede the fielder. Now we have the Arizona team here in two sequences where we have interference on one and not interference on the second. Let's take a quick look at these. Ground ball to the shortstop. Runner goes through, makes the play, throw to first. And then the rest of the play continues. We get one more look at the shortstop's play. Umpires are talking about potentially a very, very minor contact with the shortstop's glove, which happens right there. She's still in a fine position, makes the play. The umpires decided there was no interference on that play, and our runner does score that situation. Get another look at it here. Straight through. Umpire at second base makes no indication of the interference, and they get the out. Now, same team, Arizona once again. And we have a little more egregious contact with the shortstop. Doink. Now, if we go back, you can barely see the second base umpire making an indication, starting to make an interference call. Right there, he had made the call, which is the correct thing to do. You don't wait and see if they get the runner out at first. You make the call based on what you've got. And you two, in this case, did it exactly right. So here you see it getting knocked off again. Notice she's properly coached there at shortstop and didn't give up on the play. Special situation here in item F and G. Any batter or runner who intentionally hinders a following play will be called out. The batter or runner is out if a runner intentionally interferes, or the farthest advanced runner is called out if the batter intentionally interferes. Now let's explain that a little bit. Usually if the batter runner interferes, it's pretty clear, if the runner interferes, it's usually on a double play, and the double play is pretty easy to pick out who the two runners are that should be called out. If the batter interferes intentionally, this oftentimes is on a bunt where it's not clear where the defense may be making its play. So the penalty is the farthest advanced runner as well as the batter being called out. Key point, it doesn't matter if the second out would have been made or not. If the interference is intentional, you're going to get both outs. If sliding into second base or third base, the slide must be legal. The runner cannot go out of his way to interfere with the fielder making the play. He's got to be able to slide before the base, reach the base with hand or foot, and may not slide past the base. If a runner is moving toward a base on a force play, no requirement for the runner to slide. It can't be malicious contact, but there's no requirement for the runner to slide. Let's take a look at this situation and see what kind of slide we have. Ground ball to first, nice play, throw to second, boom. Nowhere close to the base, slid past, going after the shortstop. That one could have been ruled intentional interference. It wasn't, but it could have been, because that slide is not legal. Let's take a look at a different situation where this one is kind of a tough and rough slide, but is it a legal slide? Ground ball, go to second, boom. Runner clearly goes into second base, started to slide early, was not the most elegant slide in the world, but it's right there on the base. So the slide's legal, and we got an out runner. The runner lane interference situation is one that is pretty well defined, but sometimes very, very tough to call. In running the half distance from home to first, while the ball is being played to first base from an area around home plate, the batter runner must be in the lane. The lane is defined as to the right side of the first base line and to the left side of the line which is drawn, indicating the runner's lane. This type of interference protects the fielder taking the throw at first base. In order to protect the fielder taking the throw, there must be a throw, and the throw must be catchable. What we end up with oftentimes in the majors, a catchable throw is a different situation than it would be in Little League. So just be alert that if the runner is well out of the line and it does interfere with the play at first base, then you're going to have an interference situation. Here we got to look at one from the Softball World Series. Pretty good bunt over toward third base. Runner clearly inside the line. First baseman can't make the play. So what do? We've got the runner lane interference called, and we move the runners back to their time of pitch bases. With the understanding that the defense has the right to field a batted ball, what do we have when two or more fielders attempt to field the ball? The umpire will need to determine which fielder is most likely to make the play and protect that fielder from runner interference. The other fielder has got to get out of the way and cannot impede the runner's advance. That would be an obstruction situation. The important point to note, as the play proceeds, the conditions which protect one fielder may shift to another fielder. Sometimes that's a very dynamic situation, but the umpire needs to be thinking what is happening in front of him or her on that call. So here we have one that's a little straightforward or fairly straightforward. Pop fly, foul territory down the first base line. Had that first baseman not made that catch, the interference call would have been a lot more important. And the determination that the pitcher should be the protected fielder would be more important. If the first baseman was much closer to the ball and the runner ran into the pitcher, that could be an obstruction call. But in this case, clearly the pitcher was closest and most likely to make the play. So therefore, we get the interference call with the pitcher being protected. Coach's interference. Any physical assistance that assists the runner in accomplishing his mission. Touching or holding a runner by the base coach, pushing a runner ahead, helping the runner touch a base, runner comes around third, falls down, base coach picking him up is a violation. The key, like I said, is the coach improves the runner's chance of accomplishing. High fives, no matter how exuberant they might be, are not coach's interference. The ball remains live in this case, unless the runner is being played on. What we have coming up is an illustration from the Western region. I think it's 2015. This is our good friend, George Rodriguez, third base umpire. Notice the conditions in this game. We have the home team, the down by one, with runners on base in the bottom of the sixth inning. The elimination game in the Northwest final. Here we go. The ball's still live at the end of a play. Something happened. Picking it up. Third baseman wants time, but the umpire didn't give him time. Ball's still live. Tap, tap, shove. The tying run comes across. third base umpire immediately signals coach's interference, calls the out, game is over. We'll get a little bit better look at what the coach did in just a second, but you got a tap on the runner's back, a tap on the runner's back, and then watch the runner's belt bow out. Tap, tap, whoops, big shove. Promptly and correctly called by the third base umpire. When the catcher interferes with the batter is entitled to first base. It's a delayed ball situation. If the runners were stealing the upper division, their advance is allowed. The manager's option is pretty straightforward. If everybody advances one base, the manager may take the result of the play or the given base award. Take the result of the play is in a situation where the runners may have advanced more than one base. If not, when the play is done, put the batter runner on first base, allow stealing runners to advance while other runners return to time of pitch base. The interference must be with the batter's attempt to hit the ball. As we said earlier, if the batter contacts the catcher prior to the batter's forward swing, call time and simply reset everybody. Umpire spectator interference. Two situations where the umpire can interfere. Impeding the catcher's throw on a stolen base attempt or having a batted ball touch an umpire in fair territory before passing the fielder. Simple contact with the umpire is incidental. The ball remains live. If you have a situation where the umpire inadvertently kicks a live ball or the umpire gets in the middle of a throwing lane and is hit by the ball, this is incidental contact. The ball remains live. Spectator interference is anytime a spectator reaches onto the playing field or comes onto the field and interferes with the play. If you're in the stands and you keep your hands in the stands and the fielder reaches into the stands, that will not be spectator interference. When spectator interference occurs, the umpire should use judgment to nullify the impact of the interference. If you have a runner on third, for example, long fly ball down the left field line that has spectator interference, the umpire may rule that the catch would have been made, but the runner on third would have retouched and likely scored. That is a valid ruling based on the judgment of the situation. The umpire should call interference in that case, let the play proceed. If the runner's put out, disregard the interference. If the runner is safe, return time of pitch base. If the pitch results in strike three and the runner's put out on the throw, both outs will stand. In the upper divisions, you catch U2 in a position where the ball hits him and he's not quite quick enough. It's an immediate dead ball. Batter runner goes to first base. Runners will advance only if pushed. One of the more famous photos of a spectator interference in a Cubs playoff game, rule to nullify the interference, including the outs or runners advancing. That covers our interference situations. Let's spend a few moments looking at the flip side, obstruction. Key point for Little League. The fielder must be in possession of the ball and before allowed to impede the progress of a runner. As different from the major leagues, once the fielder is in possession of the ball, the fielder does not have to give the runner a lane to the base. The base can be blocked provided the fielder has possession of the ball. A fake tag, not a deke or something else like that, is considered obstruction because usually it will cause the runner to slide and it's potentially an unsafe situation. In this play, what we have is a ball that goes to the outfield. Whoops, through the fielder's legs, play to the plate. And we see in this one the catcher clearly sets up well in front of home plate. Without the possession of the ball, the runner slides and avoids significant error, significant contact on that play. But you cannot put yourself in a position where you're in the baseline before possessing the ball. Now, this was the type A obstruction, which we'll cover in just a second. So the ball was immediately dead at that point because the play was being made on the runner at the base. Just because the runner can get there doesn't mean it's not obstruction. That case clearly was an obstruction situation because, once again, like we said earlier, the ability of the runner to come in standing was interfered with. So type A obstruction, we have an immediate dead ball when you have a play being made on the runner who's obstructed. So you award the runner the base which would have been reached had there been no obstruction. Other runners who are pushed advance. If the batter runner is obstructed before reaching first base, it is also a type A obstruction. The batter runner is awarded first base. All runners advance as if there had been no obstruction. A rundown is also type A obstruction. So here we have a situation in the Softball World Series this year. Watch the center fielder on this play. Well-coached team. As the shortstop and second baseman cover bases, that center fielder comes in to cover second, gets the tag, sees the runner is not going to first, but wait, the first baseman was coming back to cover the base, got in the way of the batter runner coming down the line. Second baseman was there to cover. So let's watch it again. The bunt. Notice the plate umpire comes out very quickly, gets a good look, and rules fair almost immediately. The batter runner didn't move very far. So second baseman's covering. We get the tag. First baseman realizes the play is going to be made, comes back over, and gets in the way of the runner coming down. Base umpire immediately rules the obstruction. So the runner is awarded the base she would have gotten, which was first base, and the other runners who were pushed moved one base up. This is one that you'll see a fair amount, and we need to evaluate what is going on. A ball which is bobbled, when am I still in the act of fielding? The determination of when you're still in the act of fielding is when the ball is more than a step and a reach away from the fielder. So in slow motion here, the ball goes to the second baseman who bobbles it, regains it once, but then it kicks away again, more than a step and a reach. We now have the play not being made. The runner coming from first is not out for interference. He makes second base, so the obstruction call puts that runner there. Step and a reach on that kind of a play. Let's take a look at it one more time. Bobble, step, reach, potential interference. Umpire definitely rules that it's not an interference situation. Bobble, regain control, bobbled again, step and a reach. This one's a play at third base. Whoops, R2 is running. We got a collision. This one was ruled a train wreck The elements are such that the third baseman, while he touched the ball, you'll notice it comes out of his glove, so he's not in possession. The runner coming straight down the baseline has a collision. It's not a malicious contact situation, so the runner remains at the base there. Now, this one is a little more interesting in that I've got a rundown between third base and home. Is the runner ever in a position where he intentionally goes out of his way to cause an obstruction? Notice where the runner is right now with regard to the catcher who's coming up on the rundown. The runner is still within the 3-foot lane, which likely heavily weighed on the third base umpire's decision to rule this as obstruction. Let's see it from start to finish. Ground ball, pitcher has it, rundown starts, clears, catcher coming up with the ball. Now here's where it happens. Umpire immediately makes the call of obstruction and awards the runner home plate. See it one more time. Got to coach the runners, got to coach the fielders to clearly get outside of the path of that given runner. Now, obstruction without a play, sometimes called type B obstruction. This one is a delayed dead ball. Play continues. What the umpire should do who notes the obstruction is note the base that the runner would have gotten without the obstruction. This is often called the protected base. Play proceeds until continuous action is completed, and the umpire will rule as necessary to nullify the obstruction. It's usually an award of the protected base. Since the ball is not immediately dead, if an obstructed runner goes beyond the protected base, the runner does so at his or her own risk. Where do I see type B obstruction? It's often what could be called the lollygagging obstruction. The first baseman is standing in the vicinity of first base as the batter runner rounds first and has to change his path or her path towards second base, causing a delay in the runner's advance, which is properly called type B obstruction. Here we have an illustration of type B obstruction in the second half of the play. Line drive up the middle. Play comes in. Not a whole lot to see yet. Now we've got the award of the obstruction. What happened there at first base? Batter runner comes around, has to go wide. Umpire at first immediately indicates obstruction and then makes the award at the end of the play. Properly indicated type B. And that's the end of our obstruction discussion. Dave, any questions came in on obstruction or interference?
No, I'll just remind everybody that it's always easy to remember that the offense interferes and the defense obstructs, because when those situations occur, you always have to think, which one is it? But if you can keep telling yourself the offense interferes and the defense obstructs, it will make it a lot easier for us out on the field umpiring.
And if you keep that straight, you're better than 85% of the play-by-play announcers in Major League Baseball.
That's right.
So that's it for interference and obstruction. Real quickly, as we complete the sessions, the 5 that we've run for this year, thank you for joining the Western Region Baseball Softball Rules Review. We tried to stress those elements of the Little League rules and regulations and the appropriate interpretations to help our volunteers, whether you're a manager, a coach, a team administrator, part of the board of directors, and all the many, many parents supporting our kids playing the great games of softball and baseball. From all of us at Western Region, thank you and have a great season. Dave?
Gary, thanks so much for your time and putting together all these slides and presentations for everybody to view here at the Western region and throughout the probably the Little League community, which is worldwide. So we appreciate you doing this very much. And thank you to all the viewers for sitting through the 5 sessions here and gaining the extra knowledge. So have a great season, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next year.